Everyone loves chrysanthemums. The moment autumn arrives, garden centers become packed with pots overflowing in yellow, orange, red, and bronze blooms. They've become the classic symbol of fall decorating. But honestly, mums are a little overrated. They look beautiful for a short time, then suddenly collapse after the first hard frost, leaving containers looking tired and empty long before winter even arrives. If you've ever spent money on gorgeous mums only to watch them decline within a few weeks, you already know how frustrating that can feel. But the good news is this: there are far better plants for fall containers. Plants with richer texture, longer lasting color, stronger cold tolerance, and far more personality. In this video, we're looking at 7 incredible fall container plants that easily outperform traditional mums. These plants don't just survive cool weather. Many actually become more beautiful as temperatures drop. 1. Ornamental kale and cabbage, the ultimate cold weather statement plant. Let's begin with one of the boldest and most underrated stars of fall container gardening, ornamental kale and cabbage. These aren't vegetables you grow for dinner. They're grown entirely for visual impact, and they deliver it beautifully. Their large layered rosettes look almost like giant flowers sculpted from velvet leaves. Shades of rich purple, creamy white, blush pink, dusty blue-green, and silver swirl together in dramatic patterns that instantly grab attention. And the most incredible part? They actually become more colorful as temperatures drop. Cool autumn nights intensify the pigments in their leaves, deepening the purples, brightening the pinks, and giving the foliage a frosted, almost glowing appearance. While many flowers begin fading during chilly weather, ornamental kale and cabbage are only getting started. In fact, light frost often makes them look even better. That's one of the reasons they outperform chrysanthemums so easily in fall containers. Mums often brown and collapse after severe cold, but ornamental kale and cabbage remain vibrant well into winter, sometimes even surviving beneath light snow. For container design, these plants make incredible focal points. Large containers work best because the plants develop broad root systems and need space to fully expand. A single ornamental cabbage centered in a decorative pot can already create a dramatic display, but they also combine beautifully with trailing ivy, creeping jenny, dusty miller, pansies, or heuchera. One of the best design approaches is using ornamental kale or cabbage as the centerpiece, then surrounding it with softer, lower-growing plants that spill naturally over the edges. The contrast between the large sculptural leaves and delicate trailing foliage instantly creates a fuller, more professional-looking arrangement. Care is refreshingly simple. These plants prefer cool temperatures, evenly moist soil, and excellent drainage. Overwatering can quickly damage roots, so containers should never remain soggy. A diluted liquid fertilizer every few weeks helps maintain strong, healthy foliage and vibrant color. Removing older, yellowing leaves near the base also helps keep the plant tidy while encouraging fresh central growth. And visually, they become even more impressive later in the season. When frost settles on the curled leaves during cold mornings, the containers almost look decorated with crystal edges. They're tough, dramatic, architectural, and surprisingly reliable. Exactly what fall containers need once temperatures begin dropping. If you're tired of watching your autumn pots decline by October, ornamental kale and cabbage are one of the smartest upgrades you can make. 2. Heuchera, the foliage plant that makes containers look expensive. If ornamental kale creates bold drama, heuchera adds richness, texture, and sophistication. Also known as coral bells, heuchera is one of those plants that quietly transforms ordinary containers into something that looks professionally designed. At first glance, the plant may seem subtle, but the longer you look, the more impressive the foliage becomes. And unlike many fall plants, heuchera doesn't rely on flowers to stay beautiful. The leaves are the real attraction. The color range is almost unbelievable. Smoky plum, bronze copper, burgundy, silver-veined purple, lime green, caramel, deep chocolate, and nearly black velvet tones. Many leaves appear hand-painted or metallic in certain lighting conditions. And because the foliage lasts for months, containers continue looking full and alive long after summer flowers disappear. Heuchera thrives in containers because it naturally forms neat rounded mounds that fill empty space beautifully. It works equally well as a centerpiece, border plant, or filler around larger shrubs and grasses. Another reason gardeners love it is versatility. It grows beautifully in partial shade but can also tolerate sunlight if temperatures remain moderate. That makes it ideal for porches, entryways, balconies, window boxes, and mixed seasonal arrangements. For dramatic combinations, darker varieties like obsidian or black pearl pair beautifully with silver foliage plants such as dusty miller or lamb's ear. Bright lime-colored heucheras create incredible contrast beside purple ornamental cabbage or dark pansies. And if you prefer a softer woodland look, copper and bronze varieties blend perfectly with ornamental grasses and ferns. One major advantage over mums is longevity. While chrysanthemums often look exhausted after a few frosts, heuchera foliage remains rich and colorful well into winter. In mild climates, many varieties even stay semi-evergreen year-round. And as temperatures cool, the foliage often develops even deeper, richer tones during autumn. Care is simple. Use high-quality, well-drained potting mix and water when the top layer of soil begins drying slightly. Constant soggy soil can cause crown rot, so drainage matters tremendously. Removing occasional damaged leaves or faded flower stems helps keep the plant fresh and tidy. But overall, heuchera is wonderfully low maintenance. A single heuchera in a textured ceramic container can already look elegant and expensive without needing additional flowers at all. It's proof that beautiful containers don't always depend on blooms. Sometimes texture, foliage, and color variation create even more lasting impact. 3. Pansies and violas. Tiny flowers that refuse to quit. If there's one flower that completely proves size means nothing in gardening, it's pansies and violas. These small, cheerful blooms may look delicate, but they're surprisingly tough little plants capable of flowering through cold weather long after many larger flowers disappear completely. And honestly, few plants bring more personality to fall containers. Their velvety petals often look hand-painted with colorful patterns, soft gradients, dark centers, and contrasting edges. Shades of yellow, orange, purple, blue, burgundy, cream, and white create endless combinations that brighten even gloomy autumn days. Some flowers even resemble tiny smiling faces peeking out from the foliage. But their greatest strength is cold tolerance. Pansies and violas actually prefer cooler weather and often bloom more heavily during autumn than they do during summer heat. Light frost rarely bothers them at all. In many regions, they continue flowering straight into winter and sometimes even beneath light snow. While chrysanthemums quickly decline after repeated freezes, pansies and violas often continue looking surprisingly fresh and cheerful. For containers, the secret is planting generously. Instead of spacing plants far apart, pack them closely together to create thick carpets of color overflowing across pots, hanging baskets, and window boxes. They combine beautifully with ornamental kale, heuchera, grasses, dwarf evergreens, and trailing ivy. Because of their compact, low-growing habit, they also work wonderfully as living mulch, filling empty spaces between larger plants while softening the entire arrangement visually. And maintenance is extremely easy. Keep the soil consistently moist but not waterlogged. Regular deadheading, simply removing faded flowers, encourages non-stop blooming and keeps containers looking tidy. Violas, the smaller cousins of pansies, are even more cold-hardy and often bloom for longer periods with less maintenance. And one of the best surprises? In many climates, pansies and violas return beautifully in early spring, after surviving winter cold, giving containers a second season of color before summer flowers even begin growing. That means a single planting can often last through 2 different seasons. For gardeners wanting long-lasting color, cheerful flowers, and cold weather reliability, pansies and violas are easily some of the best fall container plants available. 4. Ornamental grasses, the secret to movement and texture in fall containers. If you really want your fall containers to stand out and feel professionally designed, ornamental grasses are one of the best additions you can make. Flowers bring color, but ornamental grasses bring movement. The moment a breeze moves through them, the entire container suddenly feels alive. Their blades sway gently, plumes shimmer in the sunlight, and soft rustling sounds create an atmosphere that ordinary flowers simply can't replicate. Even the smallest wind transforms them into living sculptures. That's one of the reasons landscape designers rely on ornamental grasses so heavily. They add height, texture, structure, and motion all at the same time while remaining incredibly low maintenance. And they fit beautifully into almost every fall decorating style. Rustic farmhouse, modern minimalist, cozy cottage, contemporary porch designs. Ornamental grasses somehow make all of them look more elegant and complete. For containers, compact and clumping varieties tend to work best. Purple fountain grass is especially dramatic with its deep burgundy foliage and soft, feathery plumes, glowing beautifully during sunset. Japanese forest grass adds graceful, flowing texture, especially in partially shaded spaces where its golden green foliage spills softly over container edges. Blue fescue creates neat blue-gray mounds that pair perfectly with cool-toned fall arrangements, featuring dusty miller, white pumpkins, silver foliage, or pansies. One of the biggest advantages of ornamental grasses is versatility. They can act as dramatic centerpieces in large urns, or simply add softer texture around the edges of smaller planters. They pair beautifully with ornamental kale, heuchera, ivy, pansies, and even miniature conifers. And their colors continue evolving throughout the season. Some varieties turn rich gold, bronze, copper, or deep burgundy as temperatures cool. Others maintain icy blue or silvery tones that look especially beautiful against autumn pumpkins and seasonal decorations. Then winter arrives, and the grasses become even more impressive. As the plumes dry naturally, they form sculptural shapes that catch frost, snow, and morning sunlight beautifully. Even after flowers disappear completely, ornamental grasses continue adding structure and interest long into winter. For planting, choose containers large enough for root expansion and use well-drained soil. Water regularly during establishment, but once mature, most ornamental grasses become surprisingly drought-tolerant and easy to care for. And maintenance is minimal. In late winter or early spring, simply cut the foliage back a few inches above the soil before fresh growth begins again. That's it. No constant deadheading, no complicated feeding schedules, no non-stop maintenance. Ornamental grasses don't just fill containers, they completely transform them. They bring softness, movement, and seasonal atmosphere that make fall arrangements feel layered, natural, and professionally designed. When combined with cool weather plants like pansies, kale, or trailing ivy, they create containers that feel alive right through the coldest months of the year. 5. Heathers and heaths, evergreen color that thrives in cold weather. When many plants begin shutting down for winter, heathers and heaths are only beginning to shine. These small evergreen shrubs may appear delicate at first glance, but they're some of the toughest cold weather container plants you can grow. Even while nearby gardens become gray and lifeless, heathers and heaths continue adding texture, color, and life well into winter. Their tiny bell-shaped flowers bloom in soft pinks, purples, magentas, and creamy whites, creating a subtle, almost magical appearance in fall containers. And their foliage is just as beautiful as the blooms. Depending on the variety and season, the needle-like leaves can shift from fresh green to bronze, copper, fiery red, golden yellow, or deep burgundy as temperatures cool. That means your containers constantly evolve throughout autumn and winter instead of remaining static. One of the reasons gardeners love heathers and heaths is because they instantly create that cozy woodland atmosphere people associate with autumn forests and mountain landscapes. They pair beautifully with ornamental grasses, dwarf evergreens, trailing ivy, mini pumpkins, pine cones, and rustic seasonal decorations. The mixture of textures, soft, spiky, glossy, feathery, makes containers feel far more layered and visually interesting. Another major advantage is cold tolerance. These plants handle frost extremely well and often continue looking attractive, even during snow and freezing temperatures. While many seasonal flowers collapse after hard frosts, heathers and heaths remain upright, colorful, and full of texture. For best results, grow them in acidic, well-drained soil, and keep the moisture level consistent without allowing the roots to stay soggy. A layer of bark mulch helps retain moisture, insulate the roots, and enhance the woodland aesthetic. And here's one of the smartest design tricks. Mix several heather varieties with slightly different bloom times and foliage colors together in one container. This creates much longer seasonal interest stretching from early autumn deep into winter. Placed near entryways, porches, patios, or walkways, these plants create a soft, inviting atmosphere during colder months. Even under light snow, their shapes and colors continue standing out beautifully. If you want fall containers that still feel alive and colorful, long after most flowers disappear, heathers and heaths are one of the best cold weather secrets you can grow. 6. Sedum, the nearly indestructible fall container plant. If there's one plant that perfectly represents low-maintenance beauty, it's sedum. Also called stone crop, sedum is one of the easiest, toughest, and most reliable plants you can add to fall containers. It thrives on neglect, tolerates difficult weather, and somehow continues looking attractive when many other plants have completely given up. Because sedum is a succulent, its thick, fleshy leaves naturally store water. That makes it extremely drought tolerant and surprisingly resilient in containers where soil often dries out quickly. Forget to water for a while? Sedum usually doesn't care. Cold weather arrives? Still no problem. Wind, frost, and unpredictable autumn weather barely slow it down. One of the most popular varieties for fall containers is Sedum Autumn Joy, known for its large, flat clusters of tiny star-shaped flowers that slowly change color throughout the season. The blooms often begin soft pink, then gradually deepen into copper red and rich bronze shades as temperatures cool. By late autumn, the dried flower heads almost resemble natural sculptures glowing in golden evening light. And unlike many flowering plants, sedum remains beautiful even after blooming finishes. The dried seed heads continue adding texture and structure throughout winter, especially when covered in frost or snow. Many professional landscapers intentionally leave sedum standing through the cold months because it creates so much visual interest. Another reason sedum works so beautifully in containers is architectural structure. Its thick, upright stems and rounded succulent foliage create strong visual balance against softer plants like grasses, ivy, or pansies. Sedum combines especially well with ornamental cabbage, dusty miller, heuchera, pumpkins, moss, and natural stone decorations for a modern rustic appearance. And care could hardly be easier. Sedum thrives in full sun and sharply drained soil. In fact, too much fertilizer or overly rich soil often weakens the plant and causes floppy growth. Minimal attention usually produces the healthiest results. Water occasionally, provide sunlight, and let the plant do the rest. That's one of the reasons gardeners love sedum so much. It consistently looks stylish and intentional without demanding constant maintenance. For fall containers that feel timeless, sculptural, and effortlessly beautiful, sedum remains one of the smartest plants you can grow. 7. Dwarf evergreens. The secret to containers that stay beautiful all year. If you've ever wished your fall containers could continue looking full, elegant, and alive long after autumn ends, dwarf evergreens are one of the smartest plants you can add. While most seasonal flowers disappear after the first hard frosts, these compact evergreen shrubs continue bringing structure, color, and texture through autumn, winter, and even into spring. Snow, wind, freezing temperatures, none of it really bothers them. That's what makes them such powerful foundation plants for containers. Varieties like dwarf Alberta spruce, compact boxwood, juniper, and miniature arbor vitae are popular for good reason. They're dependable, cold-hardy, and naturally attractive throughout every season of the year. Some varieties grow into neat, upright pyramids. Others form dense, rounded mounds. Some spread softly over the edges of containers with silvery blue foliage. And because they come in different shades of green, blue, and gray, they add instant depth and sophistication to porches, patios, walkways, and entryways. One of the biggest advantages of dwarf evergreens is versatility. They work beautifully in almost every design style imaginable. Planted in sleek black or white containers, they create a clean, modern appearance. Placed into rustic wooden barrels or weathered terracotta pots, they instantly feel cozy and natural. That flexibility makes them incredibly easy to reuse and redesign throughout the year. And that's where these plants become truly special. Think of dwarf evergreens as the permanent backbone of your container arrangements, almost like living sculptures anchoring every seasonal display. During autumn, you can surround them with ornamental kale, pansies, heuchera, pumpkins, and trailing ivy. During winter, simply swap those accents for pine cones, red berries, decorative branches, or soft string lights. Then spring arrives, and the same evergreen can be paired with tulips, daffodils, violas, or petunias without needing to replace the entire container. The evergreen remains constant while the seasonal accents change around it. That means your containers never feel empty or abandoned during colder months. Another huge advantage is low maintenance. Once established, dwarf evergreens require surprisingly little care. They prefer well-drained soil and moderate watering, but they're generally very forgiving as long as the roots aren't left sitting in soggy conditions. An occasional light trim in early spring helps maintain a dense, tidy shape, but otherwise they mostly take care of themselves. And because they remain green year-round, They continue photosynthesizing even during winter, keeping your porch and patio looking alive while neighboring containers sit empty and lifeless. One of the best container design tricks involving evergreens is using the classic thriller, filler, spiller method. The evergreen acts as the thriller, the tall structural focal point positioned in the center or back of the container. Then fillers like ornamental cabbage, pansies, or heuchera surround the base with seasonal color and texture. Finally, trailing plants like ivy or creeping jenny spill gently over the edges, softening the entire arrangement. This simple formula instantly creates containers that look full, balanced, and professionally designed. And perhaps the best part is long-term value. Instead of replanting completely new containers every season, dwarf evergreens allow you to build around the same strong foundation year after year. They bring elegance, structure, and reliability, no matter the weather outside. So while mums may dominate garden centers every fall, dwarf evergreens are the plants quietly keeping beautiful containers alive long after the seasonal flowers disappear. They're timeless, dependable, and effortlessly stylish. The true backbone of any four-season container garden.